three of us. We're in trouble together. They almost kicked us out of the hotel last night. But she is probably one of the most smartest people I know. She likes to say I am, but she really is. I mean, listen to this. I mean, do you want to say all your degrees?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Yes.
Tell them.
Yes.
You should.
Tell them your degrees.
So I went to Cornell for my bachelor's, and then I got my PhD at Columbia University, and then I did my postdoc. And I went to Yale for my postdoc. I just never went to Harvard.
You would never know. She's a great person. I mean, it's not like you're stuck up or anything. Tell them. I mean, I know a lot of her story. I've read her book, and she has a message that she wants to tell you, because we can be so much more than we are, right? But it's got to be the right thing.
Thank you, Deborah. Is this loud enough? Because sometimes you put it here and it sounds like loud to you, but not to everyone else. Okay, my name is May Lee. I'm really, really happy to be with all of you here today. I find great value in these conferences, and I'll tell you because last time I was in a WELL conference in Canada, and that's where I met Cynthia and Deborah, and they have become my lifelong friends. I also went to a self-publishing school event in Austin, Texas, and that's where I met Dr. Ann Katona-Lynn, and that resulted in 4 years of weekly meetings where we met on Zoom and we wrote our books together and eventually published them. So these conferences are invaluable, who you meet and what becomes of those people. And I want to, whoops, what happened there? Uh-oh. I want to tell you a little bit about myself for those that you might don't know. So I was a former scientist, a PhD in molecular biology, and eventually I left the research lab and went into industry. And then after that, I moved into executive recruiting for the biopharmaceutical industry for drug discovery scientists. And during my decades of work there, I spoke to many women who were scientists, engineers, and some PhDs. And in my conversations, I learned that although they were very accomplished and very hardworking and very intelligent women, they had reached points in their careers, they had reached a plateau where they didn't know how to move forward. And as I investigated that a little bit more, I found that this phenomenon is kind of prevalent in all areas of life. And so I developed a platform or framework which I call Power on the Edge, and that's what I'm going to share with you today. Okay, so let's just imagine that you're up on the top of this steep mountain with me, and the air is bitter cold and the sun is shining. You're standing next to me and your knees are kind of shaking, your heart is racing, and your stomach is a little nauseous and queasy. But you've got your ski gear on, and you adjust your goggles, and you nod over to me. And next thing I know, poof, a bunch of white snow hits my face. And then when I open my eyes, you're dropping down into the ravine. You're a dark dot, and you land safely. So the next person comes up, stands next to me, peers cautiously over the edge. And all he can see is jagged rocks and a few tree branches and nothing but pure white snow. And you can tell his shoulders are starting to get tense and his breathing is a little heavy. And all of a sudden, he backs up and he shakes his head and says, "Not today. I can't do it." So he picks up his gear and he starts to look for a way to walk down that treacherous mountain. If any of you are skiers here, I think you might know what I'm talking about. So we have two people here, two similar situations, two different outcomes. And this is what I call the edge. Both of them prepared for this moment. Both of them wanted this moment. Both of them are experienced skiers. But one of them took on the challenge, and one of them changed their mind. So let's see where this happens in other parts of life, not just on top of a steep mountain. Now we're sitting here with Linda. She's in a group with her fellow PhD students, and they're discussing their projects. Linda comes up with an idea. She raises her hand tentatively, and no one calls her name, no one notices her, so she puts it down. And she listens to people talking and sharing ideas. All of a sudden, one of her colleagues shoots her hand up. The advisor points to her and calls on her, and she starts to talk excitedly about her idea, which was exactly the one that Linda was going to say. Okay, another example. We have Rosa. She's had a cleaning business for 7 years. She loves her clients, and they love her. But she feels like she needs to raise her prices. So she thinks hard about how much she's going to charge, and then she rehearses what she's going to say. And she goes to her Friday client, as usual, does a wonderful cleaning job, and when she's done, the client hands her a check, the same check that they've always given her for the past 7 years. Then she also gives her a little box of candy for the kids. So Rosa accepts both graciously, and then she smiles a weak smile, and then she leaves without saying a word. All right, then there's Jason. Jason is training to be a financial advisor, and he gets his first potential client. He's so excited. He drives to their house, rings their doorbell, they open the door, he walks in, sits down at their kitchen table, opens up his binder, gives his presentation. He does a wonderful job because he's been training for 4 months. When it comes to the end, he knows what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to ask for the sale. He's supposed to ask the client to work with him. But all of a sudden, a dog barks and a child's screaming, and he asks the client, "Do you have any questions?" The client says, "No." So Jason hands her his business card and says, "Here's how you can reach me if you want." And he walks out. So 3 different situations, right? 3 different people, but the same outcome. And that's what I call silence on the edge. They all reached a point where a decision was made, and instead of moving forward, they backed down. So what happened in these situations? Let's just take a little bit more of a deep dive. Each of them wanted to grow their business. Each person wanted more visibility. But when the moment came, they didn't take it. Why? Was it lack of confidence? Was it fear? Was it overthinking? So it might have been some of these things, or all of them. But I would like to say that each of them had the capability of doing what they wanted to do. Would you agree? Linda was a PhD student. She's intelligent. She's got good ideas. She's knowledgeable, right? And then Rosa, she's had a cleaning business for 7 years. She's capable and confident. And then Jason, he's in a highly prestigious wealth management training program, so he's got what it takes. And yet when the time came, why didn't they just do it? And you've heard in other speakers today, just do it. But why didn't they just do it? And my question to you is, have any of you ever noticed or observed a time in your life, maybe not exactly the same, but similar, where you planned to do something, you fully intended to carry through, But when the moment came, nothing happened. So here's the thing. They all wanted growth, and they all wanted to do more. And my guess is people, some of you in this room, are people that really enjoy growth, right? You appreciate what it is to do something different, to contribute, to reinvent yourself. And you probably have a vision for your future, what's coming up next. You have a dream of who you want to be. And part of you wants to move forward into that new identity, and part of you wants to stay back. And that's where your body is, you're being pulled in two directions. And your body is going to feel that tension. This is what I'm talking about. When you take a step forward into the unknown, it feels scary, and you go, I don't know if I could do that. That doesn't feel so good. I think I'm going to stay back where it's safe and comfortable. So this is what there's no right or wrong to what they're doing. And none of them, all these people that reached this edge and didn't make that move, there was nothing technically wrong. There was nothing, nobody called them out, right? Nobody said what happened. But here's the thing, each of them knew inside themselves that something happened. Something important was supposed to happen. They had built up to that moment, and it didn't happen. So, see now. When this pattern starts to happen time and time again, you start to, it's a behavior that shows up over and over again. It becomes so consistent and so predictable, we call it a pattern. And that pattern, the behavior that shows up when you're under pressure, is what I call your identity. So when your identity is formed at a very young age, it's shaped by your environment and your surroundings, right? And sometimes beyond your awareness. So it could be your family expected you to become quiet and obedient, so that's what you did. Or your parents wanted you to become a doctor, a nurse, a lawyer, so you did that. No matter how hard it was, no matter how challenging, no matter how exhausting, you followed through. Why? Because it was expected of you. So what happens when you come to a point in your life, in your career, where no one is telling you what to do anymore? Then what? There's no right or wrong, right? At that point, growth becomes an option, and momentum is self-directed. And at that point, some people's trajectory starts to plateau. And when that happens, it's not because they've reached a limit of their capability. They've reached a ceiling of what was expected of them. So, and for other people, the trajectory continues to rise. Why? Because when they reach a moment, decision moment like the edge, instead of backing down, they move forward to reinforce that new identity. And as you continue to keep reinforcing that new identity, it starts to integrate, and it starts to become something more comfortable, and then it becomes your new default. But while you're doing this, okay, as you continue to develop your new identity and strengthen it, there's going to be times when it feels very uncomfortable, and you're going to say, oh, I don't like that, I can't do that, I'm going to fall back. the first time you raise your hand and say something, you're going to say, oh, that sounded stupid or silly or embarrassing. And you're like, I don't know if I want to ever do that again. But then the opportunity comes back at the next meeting. Are you going to raise your hand or not? So if you raise your hand and speak, you might find that it wasn't so bad this time. So that awkwardness is what I call the wobble. Okay? It's not, you didn't fail because it felt awkward. You were only trying on your new identity. And if you don't continue to keep reinforcing that, you'll never grow to the next level. So as this new identity continues to be reinforced and integrated and incubated, it begins to solidify. And I call that, it's like layers of a cake. So each one is, it takes time to solidify, it takes time to integrate, times to get comfortable. But each one will help you to continue to build on the next foundation and the next layer and the next layer. And your identity is really not just one static title, right? You can be a combination of things. At some point in your life, you might be a daughter, a friend, a volunteer. And then another point in your life, you might be a parent, right? Or a supervisor, or a caregiver. And so there are also times in your life when the edge moment is not something that you chose, but it was a life event that happened to you. For example, a layoff, or a loss, or a divorce. And then you find yourself at the edge again, trying to reinvent yourself and cope with that change that you didn't really ask for. And other times, it can be a very quiet voice in your head. It's very subtle. It says, I still want to do that. I think I'm going to try something else, but I'm not sure if I can do it or not. Or maybe it's something that says, I don't know what I want, but I sure don't want what I have right now. And that's when you need to pay attention to that voice, because that could be the birth. When you act on it, that could be the birth of a new identity. So when you reach an edge moment, you're going to notice, you need to notice it, you need to pay attention, because it's telling you something. It's telling you that your current identity and your new identity are not the same. There's a gap there, and it's up to you to fill that gap. It's giving you a message that there's something more you want to do, and you need to continue moving forward. Or you can't, or you could just stay the same. So all of you here, I'm sure, have great ideas on what you want to do next and the person that you want to become, right? That's what this room is full of. And I want to commend you on your journey. And as you go along, I'm going to ask you, what happens when you reach a plateau or a roadblock? Is someone going to just tell you, just do it? Is that going to be useful advice?
No.
Right? That's what you hear all the time. What about get a new accountability partner? Get discipline. Write down a schedule, follow it.
No.
How many times have we heard that?
No, thank you.
And why not, right? Because if it were that simple as just do it, we would have done it already. So when you reach a point where you feel like it's a plateau or a stumbling block, from everything I've said today and what you've heard today, what would you think is happening, first of all?
I'm being kept safe, not to go further.
There you go. She's adhering to the old identity. She's feeling safe and comfortable where she is. But the new one is so uncomfortable, so new that you don't want to go there. And yet when you come back, you're like, I don't like doing this either, so I'm going to try that. But that's so scary. So you're just caught in this tension. So what do you do about it? And that's what I'm talking about, is power on the edge. You need to keep on reinforcing that new identity over and over and over again, no matter how painful, no matter how much pressure, no matter how uncomfortable. Because eventually, it becomes your new default. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So in pivotal moments, you will default to your current identity, the one that you've reinforced. But if you want to grow, you need to continue to build a new one. I have some books over there, Millennium Mindset for Women, and also I would love to hear your experience on the edge, so please come and find me and let's talk about it.
Awesome.